period of our history, not only in art, but also in politics and social history. So, Nick, I'd like you to maybe talk about the beginnings of the film. What were the ano yun, artistic parang license that you adopted, no? Kasi may mga not necessarily realistic in the sense.
Animation.
Yung mga animation, and then, so yung ganun pa, no, as a filmmaker, how did you adopt what kind of framework, no, did you adopt to achieve this beautiful work for everyone to see?
Thank you. This is not an easy film to make. In so many levels, it was never easy. And to be able to show it now on its 20th year, it was made in 2004. And I just looked and I remembered exactly that, please correct me if I'm wrong, he was born, Edades was born in 1895. And what year are we in now? It's 2015. So that's exactly 1894, 84. All right, not far. Okay. Oh yeah, it was December. So give and take, so he's 120 years this year. So these are quite landmark events. Now, it was not easy because, first of all, it was a commissioned work. And as a commissioned work, you have to fight the NCCA for the funding, of course. And the funding, like all commissioned works, they're never enough. So what, if you say, what edges did you cut, what compromises did you make, you may not have noticed it, and you may have attributed it to a style, but the moment I tried to animate and do it in black and white, yung eksena niya sa America, yung the Armory show, wherein suddenly there was a frenzy when they were looking at the modernist paintings that were exhibited at the West Coast at the time. Those were really decisions I had to make, that I had to shoot them photographically. So they were photographs that we animated. And I would like to think, looking at it 20 years after, I said, hey man, you really pulled it off. Nobody will know. They would look at it as style. Some of you are smiling. That, it's, akala niyo style. When the truth is, we had no money. We have no, and these were shot in film. 35 millimeter. And 2004, the digital was already coming in. Kodak was beginning to close down. So you had all these problems of where are we going to get our stock footage. You just have to shoot it with almost no editing. So everybody has to do a take one. And in fact, when I promoted this on Facebook, the first one to react was Patrick Flores. And he said, yeah, I remember exactly, that you wanted us during our interview to, everything should be take one. And then, of course, I replied back, that went with, Alice Guillermo, they all had to take one. So I really sternly warned them, siguro pa dilat-dilat pang mata ko, that, you cannot afford to waste my footage, This has got to be take one. And true enough, take one sila lahat, very professional. So in that way, I was able to solve the problem also. The animation was the second way to solve the problem. This was shot on location. We went to the birthplace of Edades. Of course, before you shoot, you should have a location shooting, and you have to look and scout for your talent. On the third day na nag-location hunting muna kami, also looking for a talent to play the young Edades, the teenage Edades, and God knows if we're going to have an older Edades. All those things were decided na lang in Manila kasi nandito naman talaga si Edades na nga bali at that time, after he came back from the States. Pero while I was about to board the van, at the corner of my eye, so sabi ko, somebody was approaching. And it was a young boy, maliit na bata, who you would later on see to be the young Edades playing the kite. I turned back and then I said, oh my God. So I screamed at my assistant director, ayan na si Edades, oh. Talk to him. So the poor boy just didn't know what's happening. My staff just ganged up around him. At nahintakutan yung bata kasi they didn't know exactly, and he doesn't speak Tagalog, of course, Pangasinense. So we had to look for somebody who can translate exactly what we're trying to tell him. And before you know it, I mean, he was catapulted to this stellar role as the young Edades. And he played very well, So what I really want to discuss today is really the role of history in recreating the life of an artist. And I would like to really talk about the intellectual challenge that came to me. So I told you about the financial challenge, the stock problem, the casting problem, and all of this. We can go into all these minute details, but I am sure I am addressing an intellectual crowd today. All right, and I honor you with this discussion because I have labored through in terms of what is it that can give us a kind of an armature, an intellectual armature in the film. And I do hope that you'll appreciate it as you leave the room later on. I am quite happy that I was subtle about it. But for some, maybe it's too obvious, or it is obvious, but maybe not quite obvious. But now I'd like to surface it, all right? There are 3 histories that you can find in the film. Can somebody name one? Sige nga, akala nyo ako lang magsasalita dito. Ha? Name one. Gusto nyo, we'll have an exam pa eh. Oh, get one for a sheet of paper. Tell me one history. Yeah, but on a more level, on a more, absolutely. So there's the aesthetic history, but the fact that it is the history of an artist, it's biographical. So let's start with that. It is biographical. From the time he was born to the time he closed his eyes, that's one layer in the film. World War II, colonial American period, the Marcoses, Davao, all of this would consist the 3rd level, which will be the political history, the history of the nation. So it was very important for us to know when he was born. So this 1894, so that's not so far away from Bali. The Philippines was not yet declared as an independent nation state. It would be in 1898, right? But even that was squelched by the Americans. They snatched away. It would really have to officially be 1946, of which that is also represented on the screen. Then you mentioned the aesthetic history. So 3 kinds of history. From the traditional classical painting, represented by the Amorsolos and the Hidalgos and the Resurrección Hidalgo and the Juan Lunas, down to the earth-shaking, the reshaping of Philippine art through the work of Edades, of which in 1928, when he did his exhibition, he was not able to sell a single painting. All right, he would spend 40 years of his life slaving himself, but in a very productive way. He had to educate us. This, for me, is the most brilliant thing that he did. Okay, he sacrificed his art. But one thing which I admired so much para sa akin, is that, okay, you don't understand my art? I'm going to teach. Until now, I'm so emotional about it because I identify so much with that kind of, there's a parallel movement, and may I insert our own film agenda here, is that who understands experimental film in this country? I bleed. You come back from Paris with your scarf and your snow boots, and you come to this country and, announce experimental cinema, and who cares? We want our melodrama. We want our Hollywood. So, just looking at the template that Edades did, teaching, becoming the dean of both colleges of fine arts and architecture, while he was not accepted by my university,
the University of the Philippines because he was asking for 200 pesos while Amorsolo was only being paid 100 pesos. At may MA daw siya. Alright, so hindi siya tinanggap ng College of Fine Arts namin. Isn't it so funny? I just find that ridiculous. Pero yung mga pare pa ang tumanggap sa kanya, and you know naman how conservative the pare are. Diba? I mean, so suddenly there he was with his nudes and everything. So just think about those things that were happening. So let me go back to the thesis, as I said, the intellectual bedrock that I have, because I think if you were to write a history of art, you just cannot avoid, doing the context within the very text of what you're doing. I'm a teacher too. I am into film history, so history is a very strong discipline for me. It has given me the template to look at art, to look at phenomena, to look at my own life, to look at anything, literature, from the perspective, you were asking for perspective, from the perspective of art. So in this film, I was given that opportunity, and it's not always available to everything that you do. I was lucky that I was given an arm, and I just devoured the whole project and put more than what the money could possibly provide. Mainly because I've got my own archive of history books, of photographs, a lot of things, of my own network also within the art community. And so I thought far beyond the history of the artist. In other words, many things, can just be biographical, and I would like to consider that to be a very flat rendition of any history. The most you can do there is talk about the rapists of Pepsi Paloma, o yan, o di ba, ang ganda-ganda niyan, talagang, yan, pupunuin yan. Pero hanggang dyan lang, I think it's gonna be flat. It will just profit from the scandal, from all of these things, but otherwise, the question we need to ask really is, how can somebody like a son of peasant farmers end up at the front rank of an aesthetic revolution, which is modernism? And modernism is not easy. Yeah, it's self-expression, but in the end, it creates its own parameters. It creates its own world, its own worldview, its own position in relation to everything around us. The fact that art is a representation, it demands a lot, not only from the artist, but from the time when this artist emerged. So these are all problematics that I thought I would like to address in the film, from all angles possible. So from my research at the Library of Congress, I brought home those archival footage. So the film is a mixed media, if one were to compare it to painting. Let us enumerate some. But, ayokong nakikinig lang kayo, you're making a spectacle out of me. Give me one medium that I used in the film. Collage. But which collage? There were several collages. The cutouts, so that is more of like an animation cutout, so object, okay. Paper cutout, photographic cutout, those photographs were cut out, that's correct. Another? The newsreels, that's correct. I used the newsreels in a very productive way. There were interviews, there were newspaper clippings, there were dramatization. So I made use of the medium that everybody likes. O sige, dramatize natin ito. I got Mon Confiado before he became so big right now. He's called now as the chameleon. He can transform himself in so many ways. I was surprised kung na-discover ko yung bata na yon at the last moment that, I was leaving, we were leaving sa Lingayen, sa Bulosan. Simon Confiado was the last name that was mentioned. And of course, hindi pa kilala si Simon Confiado. I thought he was so young. And suddenly, on the set, he just delivered it. Yung pacing ng pananalita ni Edades, And by the way, I wrote the script, all right? But the dialogues that Monconfiado delivered, they came straight from Edades. Because I also researched on the journal, on the diaries, on his writings, and he talked first person. First person ang kanya he used I. He was always talking. So, very relatable kasi it was passing through experience. But the world was so cruel at him because the very fact that he was confessional about him. So, lahat na galit napunta rin sa kanya. But that for me is a sign of intellectual courage. When you are able to stand at the middle of a park and have everybody shoot you from all sides, and claim exactly. Some will look at it as napaka-egocentric, napaka-selfish, talking about I. But the point is that he was being responsible for it because nobody else was. You must remember he was the first one to cast the first stone and created ripples. So it's very interesting how all of this happened, and considering exactly the birth of the nation, the construction of the nation. From 1895 he was born, so he was 3 years old when 1898 happened, a very important year. And then he went through the American period. He even went through war, and as you have seen in the film, he was accused as a collaborator. That was difficult. They were just freed because there was a general national amnesty granted by Rojas at the time, so he was spared. But otherwise, nakalaboso siya. Okay? And then, after that, he went on with his teaching, went on with his debate with Guillermo Tolentino. So one question we need to ask right now is, so, sino ang may huling halakhak? All right? Who of the two ang may huling halakhak? All right? Nobody claims, mayroon pa bang nakiklaim dito, I'm a classical artist. I'm a classical artist, di ba? Meron pa ba? Wala na. But modernist, we're even beyond modernism. All right? But anyway, the point now is, ang aking theme dito, ang abali of the 3 layers of history, I think is something for you to think about. And how I tried, hinabi ko siya, how I tried to weave the story to make the film more rounded and to make it more substantial. That, we are not God's gift to anything it is. That, that Edades was not God's gift to painting. He was, in a very materialist way, he was constructed by his own time. He was made by the politics, by the aesthetic standards, by the morality, by even the academic bias that we have. All right, so all of this he had to go through, so we don't need to essentialize artists as, when we talk about them as national artists, we need to look at it in a more rounded way. I make a parallel of this because I'm a film historian. Mainly, ang obsessed ako sa mga filmmakers natin. Sure, I'm obsessed with Broca, Bernal, but may isang natatangi. No? Somebody emerges when we talk about what is national in our national cinema. There is Eddie Romero, who's celebrating his centennial this year, who I make a claim, he is the most national among all our national artists. Broca kasi is really more focused on the 70s in a very right way. Yeah, we understand, we appreciate. He took a stand. But with Romero, if you really study the entire works of Romero, he thought of the nation before we became formally a nation with films like Kamakalawa and Hari sa Hari, Lahi sa Lahi. All right? Before we became a nation, he already had an idea of who we were, and he's trying to argue this in films like Kamakalawa, our social organization, our kinship system. Ando doon na, no? Magandang pag-aralan ito ng mga anthropologists natin at sa mga kung sino pa dyan. All right, mga scholars natin. Then, when we became a nation, our birth as a nation, there's the classic, ganito kami noon, paano kayo ngayon? An amazing film, semiotically, and I'm now into semiotics, all right, how he is able to encode through signs and symbols the birthing of the nation, the worlding that created from out of that 1898 period is just an amazing feat. All right? Even the notion of the revolution and how she implicates kawimenan, the women. Diding bilang isang haliparot is actually an image of the new modern woman liberating herself against, let's say, the Maria Clara old classical template, all right? Then, after we became a nation, can anybody guess what that film is? That would sort of encapsulate it? Sige na, uwi na nga kayo. What? Starts with the letter A, just one word. Aguila, all right? That's Aguila. Amazing film. From the revolution, it's an encapsulation of our history going to the post-Mark, no, wala pang Marcos, just before the Marcos period, if I'm not mistaken, all right? So here he is straddling in all of our history, addressing before we became a nation, when we were born as a nation, and after we became a nation. How national can you get? And I don't know what you think about it, but he got the historical issues right, all right? Maybe not so much the politics, we can talk about that, but anyway, this, and then you look at, pagdating naman sa painting, I would look at dito na naungusan ng mentee niya, no? Ng protege niya na mas magaling, no? We acknowledge it's Botong Francisco, who really, my God, the expansive idea of the nation. Yung kanyang mural na lang suddenly he just articulated, our history as a nation. Para sa akin, Botong and Eddie Romero are just exemplary, artists that we have. Back to Edades. Edades, started it. He, as I said, threw the first pebble and look the ripples that he created. So I'm here also to listen to your comments, your questions. We can revisit some of the scenes. Actually, I have clipped a few things, but maybe that's not important anymore. The interesting thing is, for us to have a conversation. So what to you now, is modern art based on all of these things that we've seen, the aesthetic foundations, its origins, but also the very social context that of its birthing in the country.
Anybody would like to?
Yes.
I was very touched by that.
He is very humble, but do you know who he is? All right, this is Sid Reyes, our very distinguished art critic, and amazing work on the biographies of artists. I'm just following his posts, and I'm just amazed. I said, oh my gosh, ilan kaya dito ang pwedeng gawing pelikula? But again, I wish there's money for that, but please.
Thank you, Nick. I was very touched by your little anecdote or trivia in terms of, you touched on it very briefly, where you, when you identified the young boy to play the role of the boy Edades. And I want to connect it because it's very Pasolini-esque. Pier Paolo Pasolini, to whom you have expressed so much admiration. Yeah. So I'd like for you to expound or share in what way, or if it is indeed true, that your sensibility, your approach, your way of thinking, your attack in the handling of camera was ever touched by Pier Paolo Pasolini.
I admire Pier Paolo Pasolini, but for this film, hands off muna si Pier Paolo Pasolini. My inspiration was really, namili kami ng libo-libo ang halaga, all right, ng Amorsolo books, all are references. But filmically, I don't think I have. I'm pleased that you mentioned Pasolini. Pasolini kasi mainly he discovered people in the street, and they would appear in his films. So in that way, yeah, there's a claim to that. So maybe at the back registers of my mind, that was it. You know, you see somebody, a boy walking down the street, and then sabi, hoy, ikaw si Edades ka, nagulat na yung bata. And I don't know how I really affected him because ito na nga nangyayari, no? And this is what I hate exactly sa filmmaking. I'm sorry, magre-reflect naman tayo sa filmmaking. But, you know, the boy siguro grew up with an idea na artista siya. Yung ganong tipo. Yung ganong tipo ba? So, nakita niya ako, sinearch niya ako sa Facebook and tries to reconnect. Okay, nagpadala sa mga family pictures, may anak na siya, may dalawa ng anak niya, nakamukha niya, may asawa siya, etong asawa niya. But ako na yung ako na yung kumukunoy na talagang, oh my God, di ba? And I don't know. I mean, it's just hard to reconnect now. Ako na yun ang may problema to reconnect. So, I don't know. Kay Pasolini, that's it. I mean, it's a good issue to discuss. Pastoral nga. Pinaupo ko siya sa kalabaw, pinalaro ko siya. That was my own invention, yung puwet ng baso, di ba? I just realized na pinadon mo pala, di ba, it creates all these distortions. So yun lang ang masasabi ko. But otherwise, whether I was conscious about Pasolini here, you're the first time to really bring that up. And I'd like to think about, pag-isipan ko nga, oo.
I know that Pasolini is not really the subject here, but did the NCCA give you complete freedom, liberty? I mean, you know, I mean, if you can share that.
Ano ba namang alam nila? Pagdating sa pelikula, basta as far as they know, they got an expert. I played the role of an expert. Here's my script. You want the script? Here's my script. Ang namangha sila was, yung research ko can really be, at yung approach, yung perspective nga that I told, because I have to convince the subcommission on the arts. They're the ones giving the money. Mainly the Committee on Art Galleries. All right? Yung grupo na yon. All right? So, I had to pitch. Okay, kasi kung hindi nila, they got me nga, pero kung hindi sold sila sa project, sa gusto ko na mangyari, wala rin. They can deny me. They can make things hard for me. But what happened in the end was, because money kept, mabagal ang labas, pinaglaban talaga nila ako na ilabas na yan kasi magsushoot na kami sa Pangasinan. Ganun na yon. And it helped so much that Normal Yonggore is from Pangasinan. So luto na lahat, okay? But still, it was so hard because 35 millimeter ito. Oh my God, we had to bring a crane. You remember that kite na lumilipad sa itaas na yon, which was only split second? Kasi nag-insist talaga si director. I want a crane, di ba? Point of view ng kite, which will only last for a few seconds. Magkano halaga nun? Kaya doon pala sa Lingayen, ubos na ang pera. Kaya huwag ka ng Deocampo, huwag ka nang magreklamo at humingi pa ng pera. Kung wala ka ng pang-edit, actually, it was not edited in 35 millimeter. It was edited, eto na, 2004, papunta na tayo sa video. Kaya nakakatuwa ang behind-the-scenes story ng pelikula, how it transitioned from celluloid, linear editing, hindi namin matapos-tapos, at yung effects na napanood nyo could not have been achieved. Lumundag na kami, buti na ako, may mga estudyante ako and who owes me a lot, kaya I wanted their names to appear at palakpakan nyo, at salamat naman pinalakpakan nyo, because what they went through. Oh my God, gusto mo ng kwento? Eto na. Alam mo ang Lingayen, which is near the beach front, di ba? At ang Bulosan, interior yon. Okay? Doon sa Lingayen Hotel, nandoon na kami. Yung Talisay, may painting kasi si Edades na Talisay, di ba? Sabi ko, ay, Talisay, ang dami-daming Talisay. Oy, art department! Art! Lahat na Talisay na nahulog na, ilagay nyo sa sako, dadalhin natin yan, ha? Oy, alalahanin nyo, malayo ang Bulosan, mga 2 hours yon. Alright? So sabi ko, dalhin nyo ang, yung Talisay because motif yan sa painting ni Edades. Okay na. The next day, punta na kami sa Bulosan, di ba? Doon na kami magsushoot, especially yung bata na nagro-row, if you remember that. And I wanted, if you remember the shot, the boy jumps out of the boat and he jumps into the water and drowns himself. I want that to be ala Stanley Kubrick. Ito naman ang aking mahal. Mga yun ang iniisip ko naman, no? Talisay all over yan. Talaga, pag ganun niya, di ba? Wide angle, talisay. Di ba? Ganun. Eto ka ngayon. Di ba? Shooting na, nag-row na. Sinute ko na yung mga ibang sequences. The boy was rowing, Amor Soloesque yun, di ba? Yung may dalawang nagwa-washing-washing, tapos dumaan yung bata. I'm sorry po, hindi masyadong maganda lang ang ating projection, but if you really get that in high resolution, oh my God, Yam Laranas, who is now a big name in the indie cinema, just captured it, captured it beautifully. Eto na ngayon, isushoot ko na ang eksena ng jumping into the water. Alright. Okay, i-park na yung bangka at boy, diyan ka ha. Oo. Lulundag ka. Huwag ka munang lumuntag kasi wala kang costume na iba. Isang take lang ito. Alright. Okay, Art. Nagtatago na. Art! Art! Sana kayo? Nagtatago na sila lahat. Saan ang talisay ko? Eto na. Walang may naglakas loob. Wala talaga may Art Department, sana. Assistant Director, Paulo, who is now the President of FAP, Film Academy. Sana ang mga tao, bakit abandonado na ako dito? Except for, kanina pa nag-aantay si Yam Laranas, mag-shoot na tayo. Direk, huwag kang magalit ha. Sabay layo. Direk, nakalimutan yung talisay. Eto na. Ay, you should have known me when I was young and fiery and volcanic. Anong nakalimutan ang talisay? Ganon, di ba? And there is this long, narrow road na puro mga ano tawag nito, mga bahay kubo ang lahat. Para kung si Sisa naglalakad, talisay, maghanap kayo lahat ng talisay. Ito na yung road. Lahat dyan, may talisay dyan. Diyos ko, edi lahat na lang. Pati staff ko and everybody nila, yung mga may bahay doon, nagsasara na sa mga bintana nila kasi may nagwawala na nagsisigaw. Well, kapiranggot na talisay, lilima. Okay, instead of a wide shot, close up. Close up. Pagkalundag niya, that's what you saw. Lahat na lang. So many creative decisions, so many political decisions. Yung crumpling of the Japanese flag, right? Nang nakikinig sila sa radyo and all that. I had a long time convincing people at the NCCA because it had to be seen by other than the committee na, ay nako, cultural sensitivity or what, baka the Japanese will think this way. Because they wanted that to be cut out. Of course, I insisted, and then I was defended by Silvana Diaz, or maybe it was Silvana Diaz who was really being an Italian, was asking for, that might be too much. Pwede namang wala di ba? Mga ganong tipo. So, I insisted it should be there. So, it's there. Yeah, there's another question. And there's another question at the back. You can use this. Okay, there you go.
I'm Andrew Alto de Guzman. I'm a visual artist and a local filmmaker.
Hi.
Ako po yung gumawa ng Guillermo.
Oh! Ang saya. Dalawa na tayo dito.
Sir, kaya ako maten dito kasi si Ruben Cañete ang nag-introduce sa akin ng film mo, 2004. Malaki yung effect sa artistic journey ko doon sa film na yon.
Did you hear that?
That's one. Pangalawa, nung time kasi na yun, very fascinated ako doon sa debate. So sabi ko, someday I will make the other side, yung Guillermo. So,
next time we're all invited, we come here and we better watch that. I would love to be on the front seat.
So nagawa ko yan after 2 decades. So yun yung siniliksik, yung nanalo ng 4 awards.
Lang naman. Sa akin, wala po akong napanalunan.
Sir, nagtoka doon Nagtoka doon sa, di ba? Sa siniliksik document.
Siniliksik, yeah. You're from Bulacan then.
Yeah. So,
Guillermo's from Bulacan?
Yes, national artist from Malolos.
Like Gerardo De Leon and all that. Alright, sige po.
So yun lang, sabihin ko lang na thank you. Dahil
Thank
malaki
you.
ang inspirasyon ng film na to sa akin.
May gusto kong sabihin. Sige na, debate na tayo.
Yes, sir.
Pero sir, sino ang may huling halakhak? Alright. Salamat po.
Sino yung
Ashley. She's a Filipino American, artist, an amazing. We need to discover Ashley Deocampo. All right, that's
Thank you so
who she
much.
is.
Thank you, Nick. Hi, everyone. My name is Ashley Deocampo. I'm an artist and archivist from the University of Chicago, and I'm here in the Philippines visiting, and a friend of Professor Nick. Thank you so much for inviting me, and thank you so much for this program. I have so many thoughts, but the thing that struck me the most was Edades' period during World War II. I thought of your book, Aiga, and I'm really curious about this liminal space that he occupied politically that he was able to get away with based on his merits alone. I have two questions. One, are there any surviving works from this period? And two, are there any artists that kind of mirrored this during the martial law period, where they like straddled the line between expressing Philippine representation but also betraying that?
Except for that one account, which I recreated on the screen, that the head of prison wanted his painting to be, wanted his face to be painted. I know of no other wartime paintings. First of all, with the exception of that painting, which was done inside the prison, I don't think he was allowed to paint anything. So absolutely wartime, especially when he was in prison, wala. What he did for the Kalibapi, the propaganda machine, was all these placards and paintings. I don't think he was allowed to do murals and all those things. He wasn't allowed, and everything. Like what I've written in the book as well, is that everything was under the orders of the Japanese Kimpitai, the Eiga Haikyusha for cinema. So everything was regulated. You cannot have a piece of paint or an easel or God knows what. In the same way in cinema, they all confiscated all the equipment from all the movie studios, which were all shut down, and only one was made to operate, and that was Sampaguita. So in painting, I don't know of anybody, and in fact, the same with Botong and all that, they were all doing propaganda work. So all those, I don't think there were murals. So nothing, to answer your question, I know of any wartime work that existed. Number two, to your question of, and this is the more difficult one to answer, are there parallels to artists during the martial law period in relation to what? Oh, there were a lot. You better ask this. I mean, he knows more. It's not really, when it comes to cinema, talk to me. But when it comes to painting, I haven't really fully done my research, but there were commissioned works by the Marquesas. Maybe let's mention some. Sir, Sid, baka may kilala ka lang. Or are we compromising them? No, I don't. These are historical things to discuss,
Actually, what I can share is, because my background is advertising. I used to write scripts, commercials for products from detergents to noodles, etc. So my background is advertising, and before we were even aware that martial law was going to be declared, we were herded. I mean, the advertising creatives, totally unannounced. We were herded into some, I cannot remember now where, but we were given instructions to, so I was asking our creative director, where are you going? What are we going to do here, etc. We were given instructions to create communication materials. Yeah. And this is we were totally ignorant of what are you trying to do, So we were being asked to create materials preparing the psyche of the Filipinos to accept some impending epical change, in the country. So essentially, in a statement, it's like why we should keep the present administration. Okay. And so, creatives, when you're given a challenge, um, you solve it, and you don't think about, is this going to be a good thing, etc. Creatives don't think that way. The creatives think always of, how can I make this exciting and convincing. And I was among those who created advertising materials, commercial communication to the public, which was eventually aired, uh, uh, projecting an image of a new vision for the country.
But
Yeah.
pero baka lang we don't want to really put them into ano. So we can research on that, all right, for those artists. But what I know is that self-made artists already is that it was the time of Marcos that I remember, no? They were not, maybe they were commissioned, but in no way should we look at them as working for the Marcoses. For example, I remember, and I regret exactly that it's been painted over, or a building was built on it. You remember Green Revolution? That was the title. Green Revolution, which was painted H.R. Ocampo, which was a beautiful H.R. Ocampo. I used to live in Alabang noong una, Las Piñas, all right, and I would normally commute, and I always would, from the bus, I would always crane out my neck to look at that H.R. Hernando. So one could say that they were commissioned, and definitely by the Marcoses, kasi panahon ng martial law yun eh, but they were self-made already. I don't think that but look at the title. Green Revolution is attached to Imelda Marcos. But did they buy into Imelda Marcos's? So this is an area I think that we need to study. In the same way now, the new book I'm writing is really analyzing the martial law films and the aftermath of martial law of Lino Broca, Ismael Bernal, Mike De Leon, Eddie Romero. Because we keep on talking about martial law films, about how courageous, how much of that was implicate, how much was the artist implicated. I know where your question is going. It is the same question I asked my teacher in New York University, and for 30 minutes she just stood up and castigated me, and the entire class was just quiet and all that. My classmates were almost looking at me. See what you've done? You've angered the volcano, okay? Because I just asked one simple question. It was 89 when I was at NYU. We survived the 86 revolution. I even covered the EDSA revolution with my Super 8 film, the only celluloid film to cover that period. And so I was asking this, I thought, it's a very fair question. In what way were the artists implicated in the family, not implicated, but, the same question, implicated, complicated, implicated, in the fascist regime of Stalin. There was a long pause. Long pause. So all of us got scared, oh my God. And she's known to be a terror critic of the Western world. And so she got out of her table, slumped on the table, and then just started talking exactly, what do you mean artists are being implicated? So this is a touchy issue, and I know exactly how that can be touchy. And I'm approaching it now by working exactly on the ontology and the epistemological aspects of phenomenological aspects of it, so that all of these are verifiable within the text. Of course, I go into the context, but context, that's where labo-labo na tayo, because everybody has an opinion. But the moment you talk exactly about the semiotic of the work that can be verified, you can bring it back and say, look, did you see the red flag? The opening shot of Bayan Ko, kapit sa patilim, wherein Lino Broca, the opening shot of it is from here, one corner, to here, the other corner, from up and down, red flags all over for his opening scene. The opening salvo of the first punch that he did. Because that was 1984. He has been making social realist films that all of you mistake to be, oh, these are martial law films, anti-Marcos. No. I'm going to prove why they're not. They're more of social realist films. That's not yet the radical Lino Broca. The radical Lino Broca started in 1984 with that opening salvo of a shot, unbelievable. He put a documentary in his fiction. And what is a documentary? It works on indexicality, on index. Index is a sign that has a direct or contiguous relationship with reality. There's no harang, no? Wala siyang harang, no? Unlike, for example, in the icon makes a resemblance only, so that fictionalizing it, gives it another layer, the imagination of the director. Magandang pag-aralan ito. What are the semiotic signs Deocampo used in this film in order to arrive at truth, authenticity, and many other things? But maybe that's another time. All right? So that's the issue I just want to bring up. In painting, baka si Sir Sid Sir Sid would be able to arrive at that. But at this point, maybe.
You mentioned the public art program of the First Lady, Mrs. Marcos, wherein the buildings, actually, the available wall spaces of Metro Manila were painted by, beautiful paintings, all over. So even in EDSA, along Rojas Boulevard, so there's this great fusion of Philippine art. Yeah.
Kulay Sining. In
Yeah.
partnership with Boysen.
No,
All right. So maybe I have to leave by. It's 4:15. It's okay. We have another 15 minutes. Max is 4:20. Because it's very seldom we have this. And sir, I am deeply honored by your presence. Salamat po. Yes.
Hi, good
Max.
afternoon. My name is Max. I was curious about Jean Edades, the wife of Victorio, because she was, I think, one of the first American women and then Filipino man relationships, and she literally traveled at a very young age to come here. And I looked her up before asking this question. But then she went on to teach theater in Davao and write her own plays. But do you have any more insights as to how the extent of that, how much she supported Victoria, or any of her art works or theater works?
All right.
She also majored in fine arts, right? Yeah.
Huh?
She also majored in fine arts. That was mentioned in the documentary before she.
Yeah. For many of us, we grew up with Jean Edades. She's always in Manila Bulletin because she has an article called "How's Your English?" All right. So all of us would go through that and try to know our prepositions, when to use our prepositions, the gendering of this and that. So it was a free class, English lesson. All right, so that's one. This I hear from, she was always supportive, of course, no, sa kanyang husband. She was a tennis partner, all right? If there are doubles, she would double with Edades. So all of those are trivial things. But art-wise, ganito, yung nakahubad na babae, yung bakit maganda ka ba? Yung may nakahubad na may suso and ang kwento ni our dear friend Yonggoren, ni Norma, is that she was there when that was being painted. And the model was the utusan, a house help. And the house help, being Davawenya, being konserbativa, of course doesn't want to bear it all. Kana Edades yan, baliwala yan, di ba? Utusan, iha, inday, dali de. Oo, model ka. I don't know if she was paid. Hindi man nung, ayoko. Ganun siguro. Yeah. So nag-aayaw-ayaw pa. Ano ginawa ni Jean? This is how you do it. She took off her clothes, laid there. All right, this is how you do it. Okay, so she did it, and then of course the girl gingerly tried to follow and all. And normal Yonggoren was watching all of this. So I don't know if that in any way helps. No, the interesting thing is that she was a brave woman. Ano ang tawag mo dyan when American white could not marry blacks or international? No, another word. Louder. There you go. I cannot repeat it. Misogynation, anti-misogynation. So, can you imagine how they strategized their departure from the U.S.? They got married first, I bet, at the last hour of the day, all right, at the city hall, and then boarded their ship early morning or God knows when. So, and quietly, as I'm sure, because they carried their certificate of marriage and came to the Philippines. Because exactly of that anti-miscegenation that was happening at the time. She was courageous. She was courageous. And then she set up her life here. All right, maybe one or two more. I want to hear from are there students here of art? Yes, please. There's one. Okay, we mark you. Yes.
Okay. One of the modernists. Also married an Italian.
Yeah.
About the same time.
Uh-huh.
So, Lina Lorenzo arrived in Manila as a young woman married to a Filipino. And they were of the same generation. They were friends. So I think that they were friends, yes. Kasi Lorenzo and Edades set up the Manila Atelier.
Yeah.
With Nakpil. Yun.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so someone was raising his hand there.
Hi, I can't really be seen, but I'll just ask my question. So the Ateneo has a copy of Oliver, your documentary. So, I mean, I wouldn't say it's the most appropriate watch to watch in the library, but I did. So I just was curious about juxtaposing that documentary with this one because they both approach an individual, although they're albeit different. I was just curious if the subject that you film or choose to film, do they reflect, do they seep into the aesthetics of the film, the final look? Because I noticed, I was a bit late, so I didn't watch the whole thing, but I noticed this had more of an impressionistic feel, more of a dreamlike feel, capturing that new world that the documentary ends on. And Oliver, which is how I know your films and know your work, is more of gritty point and shoot. So I was wondering if there are parallels, overlays that you find between those two works.
Yes, you want to add to that?
And it struck, napanood ko po yung Oliver noon. And it struck me yung scene na yung wala siyang trabaho tapos nag-work siya as a draftsman. Maraming strings. So flashback sa akin.
I assure you it did not come from his behind, all right? That I assure
So
you.
Po, just to
that's very sharp of you. That's very sharp of you. But they could be worlds apart. Oliver is observational documentary. I just came back from Paris, where I studied documentary filmmaking. I did not study fiction filmmaking. I did not go to the West Coast. I went to the East Coast, NYU, so it's more scholarly academic work that I did because I was arrogant enough to say I know how to make films, but I need to write the history of my country's cinema. So that's where I went, and that's why I'm a film historian. But anyway, comparing the two, so Oliver, for those who have not seen it, it's a female impersonator, a homosexual, who worked during the time of Marcos, the martial law era, one as a prostituted person, all right, who played the role of Liza Minnelli. He had shows. He could be Grace Jones. He could be all of this character, Diana Ross and all that, all right, Barbara Streisand. But his most important show is The Spider-Man. And he inserts 100 yards of thread inside his, here we go, inside his anus, and he weaves a web all across the dance floor, and he becomes a human spider. All right, only Kafka can imagine, a human being turn into a cockroach, but that's only fictional. They don't do that in the Czech Republic. To my surprise, when I went to the Czech Republic, I said, oh, can there be an equivalent? Is there a human equivalent? I went to the Kafka Museum, and there's no trace at all of human cockroaches, all right? So it's all in their imagination. But the Philippines, it's a reality. So this is my film. Now, compare it to Edades, ang linis-linis, di ba? I even made a film on somebody who's going to become a saint one day, Mother Ignatia, my first full-length film. All right, it's in YouTube. All right, so I react to whatever projects come to me. All right, with Oliver, I put my heart and soul into it. Many times we were caught by the police. You have to run. I have another set of stories for that. All right, and also the set of problematization. Of what exactly is cinema. That's when I started writing books, because the experience stunned me so much. So what is reality? What is morality? What are all of these issues? So, it's a different set of problematics. Ito naman, different set of problematics naman ang hinarap ko, bale. But dito, ang linaw, no? Streamlined yung biography, aesthetics, history. In the film, Oliver, it's really the biography, and then everything else is almost background, but you know exactly that, the period of martial law was hanging over the story of this homosexual struggling in that very difficult time of our lives. Yes, sir.
So I'm from Spain. I'm Juan Mesquida. I've been teaching in UAP for a long time. I used to teach art history. Now it's more of history. And I just want to congratulate you for the amazing, as a historian, it's so hard to find all these sources. I mean, all this, it's so difficult to make a biography of this level, no? Especially in the Philippines, I would say. I was surprised. I thought this is a recent film, but it seems to be 2004. Which indicates that it's not so well known. I mean, I'm from Spain, from Europe. I think practically majority of the people are aware of people like Picasso, I would say, of Joan Miró, no? Let's say. No? I think the artist world is very aware of that, is for sure. But the population, the great majority of the population of the Philippines needs to know him more. I am always a regular visitor of the Art Fest, not the Art Fest, the Art Fair Manila, and it's amazing the interest. But sometimes you see many, especially young people, going around, in a way, just going around, not knowing what to look at, no? And this is really a reference point for everybody. I don't know if it could be really shown in every single school, no? As if, you have to know this guy. It's indispensable, no? Everybody has to know it, no? Actually, I have to say, I was a little emotional when I was looking at it, because, wow, this guy is a genius. I would say, he's a giant of Philippine arts. And it has to be known by everyone. Anyway, I just wanted to share a little of that. Is Mr. Dawson a real character, or is a fictional character?
It's in his biography.
So I know his grandson, who unfortunately died late. A few months ago. Yes.
Dawson.
Yes, because he ended up in Palawan. He married a Filipina, and then this is the grandson, but he died of aneurysm last June, unfortunately. I think, unless he has some relatives still, but it's amazing. Dr. Dawson, I was amused. Wow, this is exactly the same person. Yeah. The person, because that guy started the high school somewhere in Palawan, which became a university now. It's a university in Palawan, national university, state university. Anyway, that's it. I just wanted to share and congratulate you. Another thing I wanted to share is also that, as a historian, the biography of this amazing character, it's so rich, and it shows, because I'm quite familiar about Philippine history, how, I mean, the I would say the fate of so many Filipinos who have gone through so many things, starting from a poor family who manages to go to college, the States, he does not succeed, all these political things that are happening there and here, and he's amazing, I mean, example of perseverance, of grit, of resilience, not a typical thing Filipino, resilience, I don't know, it's so many things to learn from this guy, you know. Of course, it's easy to judge, I mean, you know, politics, I mean, we were discussing that about it before, but artists need to eat. I mean, they cannot survive without producing, no? And at times you are just lucky and some politician gives you you know, an opportunity, so you grab it, regardless of your ideas, no? I mean, especially if you need it. No? Anyway, just I could talk for forever, but
Yeah.
but thank you so much, and thank you to Facebook, because I just saw it in Facebook, and I'm grateful to Ateneo, who also allowed me to park here and to enter easily. No?
Thank you so much, Juan. All right, thank you very much. This is where I'm retiring by January 31 from my teaching job at the university. And I ask myself, you know, so where am I going? All right, then I think, and this is a sign. Getting back to Edades, you know, because after he retired, he went to Davao, you know, and he taught a young generation. I have already been doing that with the filmmakers. I don't know if I will be remembered in whichever way, but right now, while I'm still alive, and God knows how many more years ahead of me, you know, I write. Education is my thing. It should not only be confined in the school, but I would like to make this already my closing remarks, because I have a bus to catch to Baguio. You know, I need a little. I'm writing intense. I'm finishing 4 books right now, to be translated to German, to French, to Spanish, and 1 English book for the October book fair. So I'm on a deadline. All right, but anyway, thank you so much, sir, because the signal. Okay, you've got something to say.
Yeah, before you finish, just something that occurred to me before. One of your next projects, one of your many next projects, is to make another film with all those artists who have, in a way, I mean, living artists who in a way owe a lot to others. I think that would be a wonderful thing.
Absolutely.
That would be a wonderful thing.
Oh,
Because
yeah. Absolutely.
at times we
Some
are
of them have died. Nena
of course,
and
many, but-
Magsaysay. There, we have a daughter of one of the students of Edades, and hopefully, who knows, huh? The older Edades that you saw, this is the daughter.
Hello.
All right.
My name is Diana Aviado, and my dad was the older Edades. Hello, sir.
Pandi
Hello.
Aviado.
Yes, and I also played. I was also one of your artistas in Mother
Ignacia.
Yeah,
There
I
you
was
go.
the young narrator.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, 11 years old. So.
Oh, dear.
Yun lang. Anyway, my father, gusto ko lang din to just add, my father also mentions a lot yung the Juan Luna, na si Juan Luna, he's a murderer. And yet, ay tama ba? Tama yung sinasabi ko? Oh, anyway, yon. There's just, tapos, yes, yun lang.
It was from Pandi that I heard
Yeah.
na cut out lang ang, no. Another artist was saying that. But you're correct, sir. But I don't know. It all boils down to money, money, money. I would rather write right now because it doesn't cost much. I'm just facing my computer and books come out. But with films, you have to orchestrate 100 people, feed them, and God knows, it's very hard. I may not have that energy anymore. All right. So having said that, let me just make my conclusion. Sir, you really gave that affirmation for today, because I am a believer in science, all right? I mean, questions that I ask myself right now, so what path am I going and all that. So what you're saying right now is, Edades has got to be known. Even before you say that, this is a book which I compiled, won my second National Book Award, all right? It's a compilation of 100 lesson plans for teachers. Included here is Edades. So I make study guides. I make study guides wherein my plan now, hopefully I can convince some of our grant-giving bodies that I will be going from school to school, which I have been doing for the past 40 years for the National Commission for the Arts. I have shown Edades all the way to Cotabato, up to Pangasinan, where, of course, I had audiences of 3,000, my largest, in Lingayen, because, of course, it came from there. So it's a hometown welcome for this. So I know how you feel, but this is a different generation. It's another struggle for us, to make it known. But as I said, I approach it with a device, a lesson plan. What I would like now to do is really to have, but it's a big struggle, to have our Department of Education to really do something about it. Let me end with a dream. All right, I dream of a pedagogical cinema. A cinema that is for education, but I know it's an uphill battle for me. But you heard it here, all right? What am I opposing here? It is the entertainment industry that has really been set in place. It's a colonial legacy of America. It's hard to overturn that. I know exactly what I'm fighting against, but just like Edades, who really serves us as an inspiration, you just keep on going. All right, so I keep writing my books. I have 16 books to write, and I'm finishing 4 this year, so that makes it 20, and hopefully 5 next year again, and so on and so forth. In other words, we leave behind that knowledge, as you are, sir. You are doing that. We appreciate and we honor you for that. But in my case, as long as I've got strength, it's really got to be face-to-face with people. I'm really aiming at teachers. That's why I'm busy writing my books. But why am I here? First of all, I cannot say no to my dear friend Boots. All right. At any time you can call me. I'll be here. I'm just right across. All right. But who knows? One of you, like when I was young, I would be seated when anywhere Lino Broca is going to talk. I would crisscross the entire metropolis and I would sit right in front, because I will be blessed with every saliva that comes out from his mouth. So you are blessed. You are blessed. All of you are blessed. And look what happened to me. I became a mutant. All right? I can't remember what Lino Broca has said. He's one of our foremost directors. Very militant one, all right? And so I was just there agape, just listening. Just taking in the vibration, and keeping it in mind that, like you, sir, So it's good, we're just passing on the torch. And you never know, that that beaming face that I see behind me, you never know the potential. And some of you who are just very quiet and try to make yourselves invisible, you never know when that spark is going to happen. It will happen. You must let it happen. In my case, it's really study. I'm not a sociable guy. I'm not, I just hit the books. For me, knowledge is the key. You've heard that before. But make it happen. Make it happen. When Edades, let's demystify Edades as the closing parting words right now. Edades was an intellectual, a bloody intellectual. Read his journals, read his arguments. He was schooled. And he was a peasant son. He could have stayed in America. I could have stayed in America. I had a 10-year invitation at West Coast University. 10-year position, but I came home. And you know how difficult it is to be back home. But this is where the struggle is. Diba? Showing this now, I'm happy that you're interested in this. But if nobody's listening to me, with my 4 books now being translated into foreign languages, I'm really planning a European tour. If nobody's listening in this bloody country, then let's connect with the international community out there, and make it known. And Filipinos love it when, Edades will be praised abroad and then you come home triumphant. That's the colonial mentality that we play. We love to play that game. And so there's so much to talk about, but I'm really so happy with all your contributions right now. I hope some minds were opened, all right? Thank God nobody walked out, okay? But I'm very pleased, very thankful, and we do hope that there will be more occasions for this. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Nick. I am also a fine artist, so I create paintings and photo
Amazing.
transfers based off of the film collection that I archived. So I'll show you the films at the presentation, but I'd love to pass it. Wonderful. Two, then you like it.
Thank you so much. You just want in more, just a kamali.
One more, 1, 2, 3. One last, 1, 2. Thank you.